Hello friends. For today's video, I'm going to be doing another plan, read, review. The idea being that I look ahead at what my highest priority reads are, what I have coming in from the library, those sorts of things, and then I make a TBR for the upcoming week, and then I check back in with you by the end of the week and let you know my thoughts on what I've picked up. So it's essentially a TBR and a wrap up in one, and then smushed in the middle of all of this will be clips of my dog because she is so cute and she will make your day better. But anyway, this week, it's pretty easy to figure out what I'm going to pick up. There's a book that I've been meaning to read for a while because Orbit was nice enough to send me a physical ARC for it, and I went ahead and put a hold on the audiobook through the app Libby, which is an app that is associated with your local libraries. And I thought I would get the audiobook much sooner, but I guess a lot of people seem to have reserved it, and then they've also, I don't say this in a negative way, but they've been taking their time with the audiobook, and so I kept thinking like, I'll get it soon, and then I didn't, and then it finally was saying I was next in line, and that I had about 2 weeks before I should be able to get it. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'll put it on an August TBR and I'll plan to pick it up in August. But then it came in, so whoever the last person was, they finished it. Oh, it's my last hold too, 8 of 8, so I gotta pick it up soon. So I'm very excited. So we have combat codes, high priority, especially because it's a new release. I know a lot of other people are probably wanting to pick it up. So I want to get to that one soon. I also want to get around to One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. A lot of you probably recognize that name from the Atlas 6. And I'm very curious to read more of her works besides just the Atlas 6. And I'm very curious to see this one. I know it has to do with witches, and that's about all I know of it. I was thinking this could be a cool one to read closer to fall, but the physical copy came in really fast, and then I was surprised that the audiobook came in, and it says 7 people are waiting. And whenever I see that, I just think like, oh, I want to get to it soon so that those poor people can get to it soon as well. So those are the two main ones. And then I have another one that I was interested in, one of the books in this series, because it's that series of standalones trend that we have going on right now. And one of the new ones came out this year, and I thought it sounded fun. And I realized it was part of a series of standalones. I think it was the third one, the one that I had my eye on. And I figured, well, maybe I should try to read the first one. And I happened to see it at my local library branch. And so I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and get the first one and maybe try to pick this one up. So the first one is The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. So I think it's going to be a fantasy romance. I don't know how heavy either genre is within this, if it's more romance, if it's more fantasy, if it's kind of a great hybrid of both. So we'll find out. But those are the main ones that I'm hoping to pick up this week. We'll see how I do with these, but I might start Oathbringer soon, and I might pick up The Pariah soon, because my friend Jessie May and I are going to be doing a live show right at the beginning of August for that over on her channel. So I want to make sure I don't wait till the last minute to pick it up. Sorry, I feel like I just spit at you, but no spit came out. It was just a very spitty noise. But anyway, so I might pick those ones up. We'll see, because there's also so much manga and so many comics that I want to read. So, and I've been really prioritizing writing recently, and it has definitely cut into my reading time. So I'll say these 3 for sure, and then when I check back in, we'll see if I've read anything else. You don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll DNF one of these. We'll see. Luna, do you want attention? Luna, do you want attention, little bear? Where's your tail? Where's your happy tail? Where is it? Luna, where is it? You're very sweet and cute. And you're very patient. Oh. Before updating you on my reading, I thought I would let you all know, because I know a lot of you were really excited in my last plan read review video when I was talking about picking up Murderbot. So I thought I would share that I did end up checking out 3 of the next ones. The second one was not immediately available at my local library. They did have the audiobook available on Hoopla though, so I will probably listen to that one because I don't know how long it's going to take for the physical copy to come in. I think somebody has the physical copy, but I was able to get a bunch of these, and I just saw that I had a missed call from the library because I have it set where they call me and then it's an automated voicemail to let me know I have something on hold. So I'm wondering if it's the remaining Murderbot Diaries story. So hopefully I can start these very soon. I haven't had the chance to start that second one just yet, but I thought I'd update all of you because I know so many of you were really excited, and I'm so excited to keep going with it because I already liked that first one so much, but pretty much all of you were saying it just gets better. I did see that some of you advised to not necessarily read them in publication order because I guess the author said that they realized they needed to put something between the events that transpire between 2 of them. And so it's actually good to kind of swap. I took a screenshot of the comment so that I could try to follow that. But I didn't really realize that you could do that. Not that you couldn't, but I just mean I didn't know that it was not necessarily chronological. So thank you for letting me know that. I appreciate it very much, and I can't wait to read more. But anyway, getting to the reading from this week. This week was kind of a big fail. So I didn't think anything was bad. So it's more that I just wasn't connecting with a lot, but I have hope because there's something positive to say about each of these, sort of. But anyway, so I did end up DNFing the Lady Scoundrels story. I DNF'd it pretty quickly. There wasn't anything wrong with it. I just wasn't finding myself very engaged with the characters or the general setup. And I have plenty of other things to pick up, so I didn't feel too bad. It wasn't the highest priority. It was kind of something to read, something lighter to read between some of the bigger fantasy books, and it just wasn't quite clicking with me. I might still try because that was one where I was saying it's a series of standalone, so I might still try some of the later ones, but that one for now is a DNF. But One for My Enemy I did complete. I might as well have DNF'd it though because I really didn't care for it. I really like this author's writing. I think writing in a melodramatic way is very difficult because it can very quickly just be too melodramatic. It can very quickly be too angsty, and it can make it so that you don't feel any connection to the story. And if you go too far in, it goes from having a sense of atmosphere or an engaging tone to just feeling sort of cheap. And I never feel like that's the case. I like the writing a lot. The general narrative and everything, the way that she describes things, it's always just angsty enough for me and just melodramatic enough for me. But the characters and the plot were not to my liking whatsoever. I mentioned before that all I really knew about it is that there were witches. That was fine. I like the idea of witches. I did not realize it was a Romeo and Juliet West Side Story retelling, and I hate that story so much. I hate it. And I've played in the pit orchestra for West Side Story, and I love the music. It's so fun to play. It's pretty complex rhythmically, and it's just a blast to play in pit orchestras for West Side Story. However, the story always drives me up a wall. I'm always just sitting in the pit. Like, it's a good thing the audience can't see me, because if you don't know, pit orchestras, you're literally under the stage. And it's nice because as an orchestra player, usually you're very accustomed to sitting very proper. But when you're in the pit, you're eating snacks and relaxing. And when there's a really long stretch of time where you don't play, sometimes I would bring a book with me. Anyway, I'm going off on a side tangent. Point being, it's a good thing the audience couldn't see me because I was always like, it's just never been an emotional story to me. Everybody falls in love immediately. They're the most heightened of emotions constantly. Nobody thinks logically. Nobody plans ahead. I don't like it. So I didn't realize that that's what I was going to be getting with this book. And that is not the book's fault. That's on me. So I already wasn't particularly interested in the story. And I will say it did kind of stop being a Romeo-Juliet West Side Story retelling pretty quickly and then sort of did its own thing. And I did find that more interesting, but because the initial setup relied on that sort of a story, I didn't really like anybody immediately, and then thus I didn't really care what they were doing later. I do think the rival families that you get in the story and the way that they're constantly butting heads, but then there's this like sensual nature to their animosity. I thought that was interesting. I mean, it was very cinematic. It felt like I could watch a TV show and see the drama between these families unfold. And so I could see it being a pretty captivating show, but in book form, I was like, I don't like anybody. I don't care about anybody. I don't really care what happens. And then there's one other thing, which is just that, this is one of those things. I'm curious your thoughts. Is this a pet peeve, or is this something that you feel like the editor should have done something about? They use each other's names constantly. And I understand that dialogue in books rarely actually sounds like dialogue in real life, because I don't know if you've ever listened back to yourself talking or other people talking. We all sound pretty stupid most of the time. When you're speaking casually, you're not really paying attention to how you're wording things, or you are, but not to the level that you pay attention to how you write dialogue or how people have dialogue in movies and shows and things like that. So I understand that dialogue's not going to be exactly like how we actually speak, but nothing I shouldn't say nothing pulls me out of the story more, because that's not true. That's me being dramatic. But it just always irritates me when it's every single time. And there is one character in particular, Dimitri, who says this one woman's name in the story. It's not just that he says her name pretty much every time he talks. That's pretty much all he ever says is her name. It's just, and then her name. And him being like, and then her name. And I don't want to say her name because I don't want to reveal anything. But I don't care for it. And I kind of think it's a thing the editor should have tweaked a little and just cut, because really it's not like it's going to change the story. It's not like you're taking scenes completely out. It wasn't just that character. He was just the worst. He was the main culprit. But that was a complaint of mine in Fourth Wing too, is that they always are saying each other's names. And I wish that wasn't so prevalent. Anyway, I still really liked the writing. I still am excited to read more works by this author. This one was just kind of a miss for me. But to reiterate, I think it was more of what it was pulling from for its inspiration. That was the main reason. Now to the more positive thing to say. So I started Combat Codes. Something embarrassing to reveal. I'm so embarrassed. I thought about cutting out the part where I was like, the audiobook finally came in. Because it wasn't the audiobook, it was the ebook. And I have an ARC, and I've had an ARC for a long time, which means I waited and waited and waited for nothing, because I still didn't end up getting the audiobook. So that's embarrassing. But anyway, I just always use Libby for audiobooks. I'd never use it for ebooks, and so it didn't even occur to me that that wasn't the audiobook, and there isn't an audiobook available through the Libby app currently for me. Anyway, I started Combat Codes. This was originally self-published. I believe One for My Enemy was as well, and then it's been picked up by Orbit. And I actually, I have a little bit of a complaint when it comes to something to do with this being picked up by a traditional publisher. I do think that I can be much more forgiving of certain writing things in self-published works, because I completely understand that there is an enormous difference between you working on something alone versus having a team of people who are going to edit. They're going to do line edits, developmental edits. Sometimes they'll do several rounds of edits. And the idea is that they can afford to do that because that's what is established and set up. They have the money and the means to do that. When you are working alone, every single time you go to have your work professionally edited, it's going to cost likely thousands of dollars. And most people, it's the difference when you're traditionally published is you're getting an advance, and then the editing team takes care of the editing. Whereas when you're doing it yourself, you don't have any money. You're putting all that money in yourself, so you're not getting paid, you're losing money, and every single time you edit, it's going to add up. And so usually you're probably not going to be able to do more than 1 or 2 rounds of edits. So there might be a few things that slip through the cracks, and I can be very forgiving of that. However, if it is then picked up by a traditional publisher, I expect that you make sure to do some additional edits. It's the whole reason now. That's the perk. That's the perk of being able to have your work traditionally published, is that you have all of the extra to go into it. And I'm saying all this because there has been one thing that has been really irking me, because it makes something disorienting that does not need to be. And that's where a character, there will be somebody speaking. It's pretty clear who's talking based off of either what they're saying, or because right before the dialogue starts, it has the paragraph describing what that character's doing or their expression or something like that. So it'll say that, and then they'll start talking, and then after many, many, many sentences, it will say, so-and-so said. It will add that dialogue tag. And then they'll keep talking, and then it will say once again that they said that, and I'm like, yeah, I know. But then it makes me think, wait, did they not say that? Was the previous paragraph a different person? And so when you have a dialogue tag, that generally you don't need it if it's clear who's speaking, or you don't need it if you already had a dialogue tag. If you already had a dialogue tag and then they kept talking, and again, it's like a paragraph of text, a paragraph of dialogue, you do not need to keep saying so-and-so said. It's very clunky. And I know that sounds probably very specific, but it would be just the easiest thing to cut, and it would just clean up the pacing of the dialogue. And it would, when I say it's disorienting, it's because most of the time we're so accustomed to when there's breaks in through the form of a paragraph, and then the new paragraph, and then a new paragraph in dialogue, you're used to it going this person, this person, this person. Occasionally, if it's a monologue and they're switching into almost a different topic, then, you have it so that the end it keeps going. My point just being, it makes it so that we're so accustomed to one way that now having it constantly in there makes it a little clunky. It makes it seem like somebody else was talking as well. And it just pulls me out. It's just such an easy thing to fix. So I'm a little frustrated. Orbit. Editing L here, I wasn't sure if what I was describing was particularly clear, so I thought I'd give a specific example. So it says, that is quite funny. And then Callan feigned a chuckle of his own. Okay, establish that Callan is the one talking. It's funny that you, who have served as a Greevar scout for longer than any of this team, nearly a decade now, you, the eldest scout, have not contributed a single ounce of talent to the Citadel since your arrival. You've brought us a series of broken lacklights every year, street scum who don't even deserve to walk the Lyceum's hallowed halls, and you've continued this tradition of yours to this day, with the latest lacklight you've dragged off the streets. Callan spat hatefully. This doesn't need to be here. I mean, it's one thing if you end this with a period, and then you say that he spat, but this is in place of a dialogue tag. Which, okay, I can be kind of forgiving because you're trying to note that he's spitting within this little monologue of his. Okay, it still shouldn't be considered a dialogue tag, this should be a period, but regardless, then it says, in fact, Scout Pearson, I'm still not convinced that you've ever contributed talent to the Citadel, even during your glory days as a knight, which I'm sure you are reliving every moment of those bleary eyes of yours stealing away your valuable resources due to your inability to move on. Callan said, I know he's talking. I know. You've told me this is the third time now. I don't need you to tell me again. So anyway, this is what I mean, and this interrupts the flow of every chunk of dialogue. Whenever you have too many dialogue tags like that, it's not necessary. It's such an easy fix. That's what I'm frustrated about. It's such an easy fix, and the editors should have fixed this. If you're gonna pick up previously self-published books, I weirdly wouldn't have minded if this was still self-published, but with it being traditionally published now, I expect them to put all that they have available to them into polishing as best as possible. Otherwise, leave it self-published. You know what I mean? Anyway, that was a very long thing. I don't know if it was clear what I'm referring to. But regardless, getting to the story itself, the story is really engaging, and I like the story a lot. I'm not done with the book. I am 143 pages in, and thus far you're following a young boy who's currently enslaved, and he is forced to fight in these fighting pits, basically, for the entertainment of other individuals. and him and these other boys, at first, they don't necessarily get along. They have a taskmaster who forces them to do awful workouts basically every single day, as well as really demeaning chores. And at first they kind of resent each other, but then this young boy is very good at sort of uniting them, and he clearly has a past in which he was trained, so he is surprising everyone by doing really well in the fighting. And then there is another individual who is the other main perspective thus far, who is seeing the young boy and he's watching him fight, and it's starting to stir something in him. He feels this protectiveness for this boy, and he sees something in him. And there's also references to maybe there's a person he's been looking for, and maybe this young boy is that person, but you don't know who is this person he's looking for. Why does this matter? He clearly has his own past, and he has experience fighting as well. And so you can kind of tell that things are going to come together. I, right now, don't know where the plot's going to go, but in a good way. I'm not sure what's going to come next, and I'm excited about that. I don't really want to look into anyone else's thoughts or anything like that, because I just kind of want to see where we go with this story. And I think it has a lot of potential to be something I really, really, really like by the end. I already like the story quite a bit. I did also read a lot of manga recently, and I'll have a similar style of video up on my manga comics video game channel, FMA, Full Meta Analysis. I'll have a similar style video as this one over there, but for a lot of the manga I've been reading. So if you're interested in that, I'll have that channel linked. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.